How do you think the media is covering this crisis and the role of speculators?
Back in 2008, I think the speculator story were certainly part of what people blamed for the high prices that we saw. And we also, at that time, pointed a finger at China and their, basically relentless strong buying out of Asia, and how all of the goods that we were buying were being fueled, by their Chinese consumption of raw materials. This time around, speculators are taking a bit more of a prominent role, because we are seeing a repeat of the riots and the social unrest from 2008, but it looks like there's nobody else to blame. We have low inventories. China isn't the demand story that it was in 2008. It's not quite so dominant. But speculators have an even larger position when it comes to their long positions in corn and soybeans and wheat and hogs' bellies, you name it, they're long. They've never been longer in these markets. And so they've really got a huge position underway in these markets, and it's very clear that there's a correlation at the very least between the size of a speculative long position and the price. The bigger the position, the higher the price, and these positions have been rising just as quickly as the price of these commodities. But it's difficult from a media perspective to be able to point out and say, well, they are to blame for this, because clearly we have the fundamental story, as I talked about earlier. We do have low stocks. We do have a need for higher production. And so the speculators, they're part of the story. They're not to blame 100%, but they certainly have influenced the price and have certainly helped it rise. And it's an interesting conundrum that the media still, I think, has to really understand fully. And we don't understand who is driving what, chicken and the egg. Did they build their positions and then prices rise? It's hard to blame it on that, on speculators in that way. So it's a complicated story. I think we're still telling it from a speculator perspective, but I think we'll know more about what the influence of speculators was after they decide to leave. I think once we start to see food stocks rebuilding, the food story will be less exciting, and then they'll start to move on to another commodity market. And I think as they leave, that'll be interesting to look at, to see what do prices do then. If they all leave at the same month or quarter over a course of a year, do prices collapse, or do they find a new equilibrium that is okay for both producers and consumers? And I don't know that, I'm afraid, so we'll have to just wait and see.
Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.